Hello, Chillify channel owner, I'm ready. My husband died in a car accident. I fell into a deep depression. Then, my in-laws openly accused me of being a promiscuous vixen, constantly seducing men. Under the horrific mental pressure, I chose to jump from a building to end my life. Only after my death did I realize it was all a conspiracy by my in-laws to seize the insurance money. They even brazenly declared at my funeral, if she truly loved our son, she would have died with him long ago. After my rebirth, the system told me I would receive a charm boost buff, helping me attract countless handsome, wealthy men to save me. I looked at my father-in-law's retreating back and mused, can this buff be given to someone else? The system asked for the third time, are you sure you want to transfer the buff? I replied for the third time, yes, please transfer the charm boost buff to my father-in-law, Mr. Liu. The system glanced at the middle-aged man, over 50, sitting on the sofa scratching his foot balding, yellow teeth, and a beer belly then fell silent for a long moment. Finally, it tremblingly said, the buff has been transferred as requested. It now belongs to father-in-law Liu. Indeed, as soon as the system finished speaking, I saw the words, charm boost buff, appear above his head. System, why did you give it to him? For revenge, of course. Reborn, I must make them pay. In my previous life, my husband Ash died in a car accident, leaving behind $1 million in insurance money. We had loved each other for years, only married for one before death separated us. I couldn't bear the shock, constantly consumed by grief, and was eventually diagnosed with severe depression. My in-laws used the excuse of caring for me to stay. At first, I thought they were kind, but a few days later, their true colors emerged. If I so much as spoke to a man, they would curse me horribly. They smashed my phone, forbade me from calling male colleagues, threw away my makeup, and shamed me, asking who I was trying to seduce with heavy makeup. They rifled through my clothes, claiming it was to stop me from luring men. In less than half a month, the entire neighborhood was spreading rumors that I was a vixen, flirting with strange men so soon after my husband's death. Under that cruel mental torture, I finally stood on the rooftop and jumped. My soul hovered in midair, and I saw my in-laws standing by my lifeless body. They broke into delighted laughter. She's dead. All our efforts weren't in vain. Now the insurance money and the house are ours. We'll leave it to our grandson to take care of us in our old age. It turned out it was all their plan. Even at my funeral, facing my parents who were weeping their eyes out, they dared to say, she brought it upon herself. Who's to blame? If she truly loved our son, she would have died with him already. I hated them to my core, hated their cruelty, and hated my own weakness for giving them the opportunity to act. How I wished I could start over. As that thought flashed, a mechanical voice rang out. System activated. I lost consciousness. When I awoke, I was back on the day I jumped, linked to a system. The system said I would receive a charm boost buff. Men would unconditionally fall in love with me, becoming jealous and fighting over me. I said nothing. The painful lesson from my past life made me distrustful. Instead of entrusting my fate to others, I had my own plan. System, can this charm boost buff be given to someone else? The system paused. It's not impossible. Good, I pointed at my father-in-law, who was scratching his foot on the sofa. Give it to him. After transferring the buff, the system asked, choked with emotion, why? I winked and smiled. You'll see in a moment. No sooner had I finished speaking than my mother-in-law rushed out, throwing a shredded slip dress at my feet. My son is dead. What's the point of keeping this dress, so you can wear it for other men? I silently looked at the torn fabric. This dress was my husband's last gift to me. In my previous life, I had completely broken down at this sight, holding the dress, unable to cry. Their insults echoed in my head, becoming the final straw that led me to the rooftop. But this time, it wouldn't be like that. I interrupted her. Mother, you're right. She looked at me, bewildered, as if I were a fool. I spoke. Buddha said, all things are impermanent. What is born must die. Why cling to matters of life and death? I articulated clearly, my tone rising and falling as if giving a sermon. Ash's passing made me realize that this mortal world is inherently meaningless. I stepped forward, took my mother-in-law's hand, my face full of sincerity. Mother, if you want to cut the clothes in my closet, go ahead. If you want to smash the cosmetics on my table, go ahead. I no longer need such worldly things. Once I pass my monastic certification, I will become a renunciant. I don't need the money and the house Ash left behind either. You too can keep them for your old age. With that, I chanted, Amitabha Buddha, and turned to leave, leaving my in-laws staring blankly at each other in the living room. The next day, I immediately ordered online a wooden fish drum, prayer beads, incense, and Buddhist scriptures, adopting the posture of a devout Buddhist. My ears heard no insults, my heart focused only on reciting the Diamond Sutra. This left the two old folks at their wits' end. They would whisper and gossip, wondering what trick I was playing. But I knew they would soon have no time to worry about me anymore, because the charm boost's effect had begun to manifest. After just one night, my father-in-law suddenly became incredibly popular. In the morning, he went for a walk. From the old man in the wheelchair to the young men rushing to catch the subway, everyone's eyes followed him. On the street, people sought excuses to talk to him. He came home, rubbing his cheek and shaking his head. People in the city aren't as cold as rumored at all, they're overly enthusiastic. My face is about to split from all the smiling after just one stroll. My mother-in-law scoffed. You're a troublemaker, already old and still trying to act flirtatious. I'm warning you, if you get involved with those prey, you'll regret it. He retorted, Are you slandering me? They were all men who greeted me. Heaven be my witness, I'll be a dog if I'm lying. Just as he finished, there was a knock at the door. It was Mr. Lee, the neighbor, grinning widely. Mr. Liu, I'm going fishing. Want to come along? My father-in-law's eyes lit up. Yes, but I don't have a fishing rod. I do, feel free to use it. Mr. Lee was a little shy. Just come along. My father-in-law was about to nod when a stout man, Mr. Chen, squeezed in through the doorway. No, Mr. Liu, you promised to play chess with me this morning. My father-in-law hesitated slightly. He vaguely remembered saying something that morning, but it was just a perfunctory remark, and he couldn't even recall Mr. Chen's name. Mr. Lee was annoyed. Mr. Liu promised me first, Mr. Chen sternly said. I clearly invited him first. Neither would back down. They glared at each other and immediately started fighting. One wanted to go fishing, the other to play chess. My father-in-law quickly intervened. Let's talk slowly. How about this? We all go together. We can fish and play chess. Only then did they separate. Only for Mr. Liu's sake. My mother-in-law frowned at me. Is there something wrong with my eyes? That scene was disgusting. I pressed hard on my thigh to keep from laughing aloud. I don't see anything, mother. I only see father-in-law quickly making new friends. My father-in-law smugly said, I have character, quality, and charisma. Everyone in the neighborhood admires me. My mother-in-law picked up a broom and shooed him. Get out of here before you embarrass me even more. Father-in-law happily followed the two old men out of the house. He didn't return until late that night. My mother-in-law was so anxious she reported him missing to the police. Initially, the police said it hadn't been 48 hours, so they couldn't open a missing persons case. But my mother-in-law cried in the station, my son just died, and now if I lose my husband too, how can I bear it? Hearing this, the police took pity and agreed to check the surveillance cameras. The camera showed my father-in-law going fishing with Mr. Lee and Mr. Chen. They left at 5 p.m., had dinner together, and then parted ways. But he and Mr. Lee didn't return to the residential area. They turned into an alley and disappeared from the camera's view. The police took me and my mother-in-law to that alley. As soon as we got out of the car, we saw my father-in-law, hair disheveled, clothes askew, running out in a panic. My mother-in-law breathed a sigh of relief. I didn't realize you were so flirtatious, still not home at this late hour. Just as she spoke, she saw several hickeys on his neck and bite marks on his chest. The scene fell silent, even the police didn't dare utter a sound. He panted, bursting into tears when he saw the police. Officers, please help me, I've been... My mother-in-law's hair stood on end with anger. Mr. Liu, I was worried sick at home, and you're out having fun, aren't you? Where's that vixen? Today I'm going to rip her skin off. But her words caught in her throat because Mr. Lee appeared at the end of the alley, looking even more disheveled. Mr. Liu, you can't turn your back on me so quickly, can you? We were so passionate just now. Seeing my mother-in-law and the police, he too was speechless. My father-in-law's face flushed crimson. Officer, he did it. Arrest him? By now, anyone with eyes understood. My father-in-law had been violated by Mr. Lee. I heard an officer take a deep breath and whisper to his colleague, quite the taste. I reviewed all the suffering in my life to keep from bursting into laughter. Mr. Lee immediately cried injustice. No, it wasn't like that. He didn't resist at all. My father-in-law gritted his teeth and whispered, You said we were going to relieve stress. I thought you were finding women for me. Who knew you'd attack me yourself? My mother-in-law, after a moment of stunned silence, lunged forward and scratched Mr. Lee's face fiercely. You shameless old man. Mr. Lee wouldn't be outdone. Mr. Liu told me himself that you're just a sour old woman and he doesn't like you one bit. The police quickly intervened. No fighting, my mother-in-law cried as she tugged at an officer. Officer, you cannot let this beast go. My father-in-law cowered beside her, clutching his backside, tears welling in his eyes. The police looked a bit awkward. Rape laws currently only apply to women. For men, it's at most a minor harassment charge. I noticed the two officers almost didn't dare to look at my father-in-law. He suspiciously asked the system, why weren't they affected by the buff? The system excitedly gossiped. Of course not. Those two are upright gentlemen. The buff only works on the lecherous. Hearing this, I felt a sense of relief. My last bit of guilt vanished. Minor harassment at most only incurs a 5-year sentence. I feigned regret. Now that the news has spread, how will these two old folks live here anymore? Mr. Lee quickly argued. Officer, this isn't harassment. As soon as I touched him, he went as soft as noodles. I didn't force him at all. The officer glanced at my father-in-law, a look of disgust on his face. All right, no more talk. A medical examination will make it clear. My father-in-law turned pale with fear, pulling my mother-in-law. Maybe we should just drop it. This would be too shameful if it gets out. I silently exclaimed, oh my God, was he really willing? The system gloated. The buff has altered his body. Even if he doesn't want to mentally, he can't resist physical touch from men. I shivered. Thank goodness I didn't take that damn buff. My mother-in-law's face alternated between red and white, like an actor playing a villain. The police, wanting to downplay the incident, took everyone back to the station for mediation. After a long argument, Mr. Lee compensated 50,000 yuan. The matter was considered closed. On the way home, Mr. Lee sneered, Mr. Liu, your one night is quite expensive. My mother-in-law was so enraged she almost had a heart attack, her hand trembling as she pointed at her husband. The Liu family is truly cursed. Now they've even spawned a male vixen. From then on, my father-in-law behaved for a while, staying holed up at home as if afraid of wild beasts outside. But it only lasted half a month before he grew restless, constantly trying to sneak out. The system explained it was a side effect of the buff. If he didn't interact with men daily, he would feel uncomfortable and agitated. My mother-in-law, seeing him constantly sneaking out to play with men, secretly followed him. Seeing the hungry stares from those men, she went ballistic, lunging and scratching each of their faces. That night, the apartment complex's resident group chat exploded. The wives of those men, hearing the news, angrily rallied online. Someone sarcastically remarked that their neighborhood had a madwoman who attacked men on sight. My mother-in-law wouldn't back down. HMPH, am I wrong to hit them? It's because they shamelessly clung to my husband. Otherwise, would I hit them? These words were nothing short of igniting a world war. My husband, old Wang, only played a few card games with your husband. Does that make him gay? Your husband has a problem, not mine. My family is decent and won't stoop to your level, or else I would have called the police. Someone else, nosy, asked, I want to know what this man who attracts all men looks like. I sent my father-in-law's picture to the group. The entire group fell silent for a long time. Well, he's a person, I guess. Let's not fight over him anymore. He probably has mental issues, so pitiful. My mother-in-law was furious, like a boiling pot, typing a counterattack while raging. Unfortunately, she was outnumbered and overwhelmed. She angrily threw her phone. When she turned around, she saw my father-in-law happily texting. She snatched the phone, intending to throw it, but saw he was making plans with another man for tomorrow. Her hair stood on end. Mr. Liu. Have you forgotten about Mr. Lee? And you dare to sneak around with other men? You've completely shamed me. My father-in-law, having his phone snatched, was also unhappy. What are you talking about? Speak clearly. My mother-in-law shrieked. One abnormal person in this house is enough. The war suddenly spread to me. I picked up a glass of water and retreated from the living room. I still have to chant scriptures. I'll go back to my room first. I turned and ran into my room. Through the wall, I could still hear my mother-in-law screaming, You entice men like that. I suspect you're a reincarnated fox spirit. From then on, my in-laws argued more intensely. After each argument, my father-in-law would slam the door and storm out. My mother-in-law would cry and curse after his retreating back. That scene gave me an idea. That day, after returning from the temple, I pulled my mother-in-law aside, looked around, and whispered, Father's not home, is he? My mother-in-law snorted, full of resentment. He's enchanted by all those vixen out there. Why would he want to come home? I feigned a sigh. The vixen, I'm afraid, isn't outside but inside the house. What do you mean? My mother-in-law looked at me suspiciously. Tonight, I went to the temple to worship Buddha and met the abbot. He said I carried an evil aura and that our house wasn't clean. My mother-in-law was half believing, half doubting. Really? I nodded, looking pious, then continued, Father isn't young anymore and his appearance is quite ordinary. Mother, think about why those men are so infatuated with him. Isn't that problematic? Do you mean Father is possessed by a fox spirit? It's highly possible, I said with certainty. I took out a string of prayer beads. This was given by the abbot. It has been blessed before Buddha. It's sensitive to unclean things. If Father is truly possessed, wearing it will make him very uncomfortable. Just then, my father-in-law pushed the door open and walked in. What are you whispering about? I subtly signaled my mother-in-law with my eyes and smiled. Today I met the abbot. He gave me some blessed prayer beads to ward off evil. Father, this is for you, for peace. My father-in-law didn't believe in spiritual matters. It's all those old monks scamming people for money. This probably costs hundreds of thousands, right? You women really throw money away. My mother-in-law immediately snatched the beads and put them on my father-in-law's wrist. The child has good intentions. Stop talking nonsense and wear it. My father-in-law frowned but wore it. As soon as he put it on, he suddenly screamed, threw the beads to the ground and clutched his wrist in pain. What the hell is this? It hurts like crazy? He held up his hand, and on his left wrist a clear circular burn mark like a monk's scar appeared. He glared at me, eyes wide. What kind of trash is this? It did this to my hand. Throw it away immediately. With that, he angrily went into the room to get a bandage. My mother-in-law looked at me in shock. Could your father really be possessed by a fox spirit? I made a shushing gesture. Quietly, if he hears us, Mother and I might not make it out alive. My mother-in-law was on the verge of tears. What do we do now? I lowered my voice, full of seriousness. The abbot said that fox spirits are weakest after absorbing yang energy. Just stab them in the heart with a knife and they can be eliminated. My mother-in-law hesitated a bit. Stabbing your father in the heart, isn't that dangerous? I firmly said, no, it won't harm the real person, but you must act quickly. If you wait too long, it will affect his life. My mother-in-law worriedly nodded. I continued, feigning regret. It's a pity the abbot has gone abroad for a month and won't be back until then. I hope Father can endure it. My mother-in-law's face alternated between white and green. Finally, distraught, she returned to her room. System, the master is too cunning. I took out a remote control. Inside the prayer beads was a tiny vibrating device. Just that was enough to make my mother-in-law believe my father-in-law was possessed. System, there's going to be a good show soon. I've already installed a miniature camera in my in-laws' room. As night fell, I turned on the camera, watching every development. My father-in-law was asleep, but my mother-in-law tossed and turned restlessly. Finally, she sat up. She didn't turn on the light, just stared intently at my father-in-law, her eyes filled with conflict. Then she saw a red mark behind his ear, and her face immediately turned cold. Close to midnight, she tiptoed out of bed, opened the door, and walked out. I also quietly tiptoed to the door, peering through a small crack. My mother-in-law went into the kitchen, took out a knife, and muttered, I must eradicate evil and demons, kill the fox spirit. She took a deep breath and pushed open the bedroom door. Immediately after, a tragic scream echoed from my father-in-law's room. Are you crazy? I put down my phone, stretched, and thought, it's my cue to act. I pretended to be woken up and rushed in. Father, what's wrong? My father-in-law cowered in the corner, his shoulders soaked in blood. My mother-in-law had her back to me, still muttering, kill the fox spirit. Seeing me, my father-in-law was overjoyed as if seeing a savior. Anna, call the police. Your mother's gone mad. She's attacking me with a knife. My mother-in-law suddenly turned around. As she had just attacked my father-in-law, blood splattered on her chin, dripping onto the floor. Her eyes, as she looked at me, were calm yet crazed. Get out! Don't stop me from eradicating evil. I said nothing. I left the room and immediately called 911 and 999. When the police and ambulance arrived, my father-in-law had sustained several more stab wounds. Fortunately, none were fatal. He was rushed to the emergency room. My mother-in-law was escorted away by the police, still struggling, constantly screaming, I'm not crazy, let me go. I have to kill that fox spirit to make it leave my husband. Only I remained in the room. The system wondered, Master, why did you call the police? If your mother-in-law had killed your father-in-law, wouldn't your revenge have been complete? I smirked. That would be too easy for him. I sneered coldly. Later, I learned that in my previous life, It was my father-in-law who devised the plan to drive me to my death to seize the insurance money and the house, because my husband was fundamentally not his biological son. The nephew's son my in-laws always talked about was actually his biological son. Years ago, my father-in-law and his elder brother had children almost at the same time. His elder brother was far-sighted, quickly ventured into business, and made a fortune, while my father-in-law quit halfway and amounted to nothing. He envied his elder brother, so he seized the opportunity to swap babies, sending his biological son to the other side to enjoy a life of luxury. My husband once told me that he was beat and verbally abused mercilessly by his parents since childhood, and it only got better as he grew older. At the time, I wondered why any parents would be so harsh with their child. It wasn't until I jumped to my death and my soul hovered in midair that I overheard the secret from my gleefully celebrating in-laws. Even my husband's car accident was orchestrated by them, just to seize the money and the house and reunite with their biological son. How could I easily forgive them? I had to make them live a life worse than death. After her arrest, my mother-in-law refused to cooperate with the investigation and insisted on seeing me. The police had no choice but to call me. When I arrived at the station, she screamed as soon as she saw me, "Anna, quickly tell the police I didn't kill anyone. I just wanted to drive the fox spirit out of your father." I comforted her. "Mother, I believe you, but the police won't. They plan to prosecute you for attempted murder. You'll be in prison for over 10 years. My mother-in-law panicked. "No, I can't go to prison. If I'm arrested, our nephew's son won't be able to get a good job in the future," I whispered. "I've thought of a way. Just act a little crazy, and I'll say you have a mental illness. If you committed the crime during an episode, you won't have to go to prison, especially since you only injured him. Then you'll just need to stay in a mental hospital for a while. Once things settle down, I'll pick you up." Hearing she wouldn't go to prison, my mother-in-law immediately nodded. Okay. In reality, she didn't need to fake it. With what she did that night, the police already suspected she had mental issues. I also had a doctor write an additional psychiatric evaluation, so the police immediately admitted my mother-in-law to a mental hospital. On the day of admission, she gripped my hand reluctantly. "Remember to pick me up soon, dear," I smiled. "Don't worry." Watching her walk step by step into the hospital, still turning her head repeatedly, I thought to myself, "Don't worry, mother, you'll never leave there again." My father-in-law, hearing his wife was in a mental hospital, coldly snorted, "Serves her right. That old hag dared to stab me. It hurt like hell." I glanced around. He still hadn't noticed the many male patients in the room staring at him with strange eyes. Sure enough, that night, he was attacked. I seized the opportunity to make a huge fuss. To avoid trouble, the hospital transferred my father-in-law to a private VIP room. This room was only for wealthy patients. My father-in-law was thrilled, thinking he got a good deal. Meanwhile, I started asking the system about the backgrounds of the patients on that floor. In one of my deliberate arrangements, my father-in-law met the wealthiest patient on the floor, Young Bin, a playboy heir. His assets were rumored to be nearly 100 million. Young Bin was a prodigal son who, while drunk, harassed a woman on the street and even beat her boyfriend, causing a public outcry. His father sent him to the hospital to avoid further scandal. As soon as Young Bin saw my father-in-law, he was immediately enchanted by the buff, his eyes gleaming, unable to tear away. Afterward, Young Bin launched a relentless pursuit. Designer clothes, luxury watches, and cars poured into my father-in-law's room. Even the nurses were shocked, gossiping all day. A man in his 30s falling for a 50-year-old uncle? Is this true love? Initially, my father-in-law resisted, but with so many gifts, he half-heartedly accepted. The two were like fire meeting thunder, an explosive combination. Nurses who accidentally entered their room screamed, "My eyes, my eyes." Seeing that everything was prepared, I chose an auspicious day. I barged into the room, straight to their bedside. "Father, how could you do this? This is utterly immoral." I feigned heartbreak, criticizing him. If Mother knew, she would surely die of grief. My father-in-law stubbornly retorted, "That crazy woman stabbed me. What loyalty do I owe her?" Young Bin shielded my father-in-law behind him, glaring at me. "You're Mr. Liu's daughter-in-law, aren't you? Direct your anger at me." "Don't make things difficult for Mr. Liu. I'm not afraid at all." "Then let's see if I call the reporters and watch your family's stock collapse." My father-in-law, hearing about money, quickly softened. "Anna, don't be like that. Let's talk calmly." I pulled up a chair and sat down. "You two break up, and I'll pretend nothing happened." Young Bin immediately grasped my father-in-law's hand, looking at me as if I were the queen mother breaking up a pair of lovers. Impossible. No one can separate us. His voice was full of emotion, his attitude nauseating. Father, do you think so too? My father-in-law bowed his head and said nothing, but he was clearly enjoying his luxurious life with young Bin. Anything he wanted, he got. Humans are inherently greedy creatures. Once they've tasted the life of the wealthy, how can they be content to return to being commoners? I feigned disappointment. Mother went crazy because of you. She just got admitted, and you're already having an affair. If this news spreads back to our hometown, will you have any face left? My father-in-law snorted. Oh, please, isn't it just about money? Young Bin took out a bank card and threw it at me. Here's 3 million yuan. Consider it severance pay for that old hag. Tomorrow, Mr. Liu and I will go to get a divorce. I took the card and thought for a few seconds. All right, but we need to sign a contract. The system kept exclaiming, Master is so capable. Even that old man sold for 3 million? I secretly chuckled. This money was too easy to earn. After signing the contract, I took pictures of my father-in-law and young Bin being intimate to show my mother-in-law. She was overjoyed, thinking I had come to pick her up, but as soon as she saw the stack of photos, she was completely stunned. How can this be? I crossed my arms, my eyes full of contempt. This is the truth. Mr. Liu no longer needs you. His lover paid me 3 million to buy your divorce papers. Impossible, I don't believe it. Mr. Liu and I even signed a contract. Wanna see? I pulled out my phone and showed her fresh pictures of the contract. She tried to avoid it but eventually had to flip through each page. After reading it, her eyes blazed. I won't divorce, I won't sign. I shrugged. It's fine. Mr. Liu's lover has hired a lawyer to make a civil power of attorney. I will sign the divorce papers on your behalf. She suddenly went berserk, pulling at the doorknob. Let me go, I'm not crazy. This evil woman set me up. The noise brought nurses and doctors running. They gave her a sedative injection and strapped her into a straitjacket. She still muttered, I'm not crazy, let me go. I stood by the bed, looking down at her. Which patient ever admits they're sick? Lily Liu, you can stay here until you die. Why are you doing this to me? My mother-in-law shrieked, tears streaming down her face. I leaned down and whispered in her ear. You killed Ash and tried to push me to my death. Wasn't it just so someone would take care of you in your old age? Now you're here, well-fed, so you've achieved your goal. You know, my mother-in-law trembled. You're not Anna, who are you? I curved my lips into a seductive smile. Didn't you want to kill me? She shrieked in panic. Fox spirit, you're a fox spirit. There's a monster. Quickly, kill the monster. But no matter how hoarsely she screamed, no one believed her. Indeed, turning into a madwoman was the most fitting punishment for her. After all this, my in-laws were officially divorced. Perhaps out of guilt, my father-in-law gave up all his assets, including the insurance money and the house in the countryside. Everything now belonged to me. When everything was settled, I told the system, you can remove the buff now. The system had once whispered to me that I could remove the buff at any time, even if the current user wasn't me. As expected, my father-in-law lost the charm boost buff. He transformed from a coveted beauty to a repulsive figure, from a temptress to a grotesque character. I heard that when young Bin sobered up and saw my father-in-law in his arms, he vomited for 3 days straight, unable to eat. He immediately called security to throw my father-in-law out of the villa. My father-in-law clung to the gate, crying, Young Bin, you scoundrel, you flirted with me first, I even divorced for you. Now you're tired and you're dumping me? Are you even human? Young Bin wished he could smash his head against a wall. I must have been possessed to fall for this toad. Afraid of losing face with the neighbors, he immediately called 911, reporting my father-in-law for harassment and demanding his arrest. Seeing the police arrive, my father-in-law had no choice but to leave. Young Bin remembered the contract and thought I and my father-in-law had conspired to scam him. He called me, threatening me to return the 3 million. I laughed coldly. Mr. Young, the contract is between me and Mr. Liu. That 3 million was divorce compensation for my mother-in-law. What does it have to do with you? If you want your money back, go find Mr. Liu. Young Bin angrily went to find my father-in-law, demanding his money back. My father-in-law thought he was returning for love and tried to embrace him as soon as he saw him. Young Bin ran away in a panic, but my father-in-law unexpectedly chased him all the way to his house, demanding to move in. Young Bin furiously shouted, Consider me unlucky. Consider 3 million thrown into the river. Security, beat him up and throw him out. If I see his face again, I'll beat him every time. After being beaten, my father-in-law finally realized that young Bin no longer needed him at all. He dared not approach him again, but he had nowhere to go, so he secretly returned home. As soon as I opened the door, I saw my father-in-law brazenly lying on the sofa. "You're back. I'm starving. Hurry up and cook." I glanced at him with contempt. "Will you leave on your own, or should I call the police to escort you out?" My father-in-law jumped up and cursed. "This is my house. My son bought this house. Why can't I stay?" I took out the contract. "It clearly states in the divorce papers that you left empty-handed. The house and money are no longer yours. You are currently trespassing. If you don't leave, I'll call the police." My father-in-law's eyes darted around, his voice softening. "Anna, don't be angry. We're still family. Let's talk politely." I glared. "Whose family with you?" My father-in-law shamelessly approached. "Anna, I came back because I want to remarry your mother." So he planned to go back to his old ways. Ugly and delusional. "Remarry?" I scoffed. "Unfortunately, mother has been diagnosed with a mental illness and is no longer legally competent, so if you go to the Civil Affairs Bureau, you'll just be turned away." My father-in-law looked confident. "Then that divorce isn't valid, is it? After all, she didn't sign it herself." It turned out he was trying to find a legal loophole. Fortunately, I had prepared in advance. "You're wrong." When processing the divorce, young Bin hired a lawyer to draft a power of attorney. It authorized me to sign on Lily Liu's behalf. Her signature is on the document, and the lawyer and doctor both witnessed it. I have the legal right to sign the divorce on her behalf. My father-in-law, uneducated in law, was stunned. He glared and roared, "Fine, you're heartless, I'll sue you. Go ahead and sue. I'll wait for the summons." I smiled, stepping aside and gesturing him towards the door. "But now, please get out, or I'll call the police." Soon after, my father-in-law actually sued me. I hired the best lawyer and stated that my father-in-law was the one who committed adultery first. My mother-in-law willingly left empty-handed. I had asked for her consent when she was lucid, with the doctor and lawyer as witnesses. She agreed to let me represent her in the divorce. In court, my father-in-law wailed and threw a tantrum. "Your Honor, this girl tricked me to seize my assets. I'm old, homeless, and penniless. How am I supposed to live?" The judge reviewed the documents I submitted and asked him, "Do you have any evidence to prove you were forced into this divorce?" My father-in-law swore to heaven. In the end, the judge rejected his request to annul the divorce. I won the case. My father-in-law couldn't remarry. He fell into vagrancy, living by picking up trash. The system asked if I wanted to continue my revenge. I shook my head. This is still too lenient. Having experienced a luxurious life only to fall into hell, that feeling of a life worse than death is the most fitting punishment for him and my revenge for Ash and myself. But one night, as he was picking up trash, he ran into young Bin and his drinking buddies leaving a bar. Thinking that young Bin and I conspired to trick him, he rushed over to confront them. Young Bin, seeing him, was furious, remembering the dark days, and swung his arm, hitting him. My father-in-law was beaten and ran away. Young Bin chased him. Both ran into the middle of the road. A truck sped towards them, unable to brake in time, crushing both into a pool of blood. Hearing this news, I only sighed. He still got off easy. I visited my mother-in-law at the mental hospital and told her the news of my father-in-law's death. She was completely insane. Upon hearing it, she laughed heartily and clapped her hands. "The fox spirit is dead. A good death, a wonderful death. Now that he's dead, the money and the house are all ours. We can go find our son. With money, he'll surely take us back. Our family will be reunited." A few days later, the hospital called to report that my mother-in-law, when no one was paying attention, climbed to the rooftop and jumped to her death. Today is my husband Ash's death anniversary. I brought a bouquet of flowers to the cemetery, a tissue in my hand, gently wiping the dust from his photo. I told him everything from beginning to end about his parents. "Ash, you can finally rest in peace now." A gust of wind blew through, and incense smoke curled upwards. I was startled as if I saw him smiling at me. I smiled back. The dark clouds above cleared, and the sunlight streamed through the sky, casting down. Everything was perfectly enough. I stood up, waving goodbye to his grave. "Ash, I think it's time for me to start a new life. Goodbye."